Hey, so one of the questions I get is how do I get audio from a TV or video to a TV from somewhere else in the house or from a central location? So this TV outside actually has speakers above me, and they are powered by a Sonos amp down in the basement. But this TV doesn't have an HDMI cable that runs down there. We only have Ethernet between this TV and the basement. So we have a lot of we send HDMI over Ethernet, and I want to show you how we do that today. And conveniently, it's actually currently broken, it's not working. So we're actually going to take some steps through of what an HDMI balun is and how we send HDMI over Ethernet to an amp, and then how that audio gets back up to the speakers above us. Here, this is what's called an HDMI balun, this little black box here. I'll put a link in the video to Amazon. There's a bunch of different brands, but this is the one I chose in the end. And the main reason I chose this one is because, for those that are aware, HDMI has this protocol called ARC, which is Audio Return Channel. So this can send video from the basement to here, then it can send audio from the TV back down to the basement. So that's what happens, is we send audio back down this into the Sonos amp, and then Sonos amp sends audio to the speakers above me. So there's two of these. This is the receiver, because it receives the video signal, even though it sends audio backwards. And you see in the front here, you can actually you can do ARC, but you can also send like the optical or the phono connection back down there as well. Power, these things are PoE, but not the traditional PoE. So one of these baluns has to be plugged in. Either end doesn't matter, and then it'll power the other one. So the one down in the basement is plugged into the power, and then this one gets powered by that via the Ethernet cable, which is nice. So this just has an HDMI cable and an Ethernet cable plugged into the back of it. So here we have power, we have status. The status is trying to say it's trying to create a connection, and this link light should be lit up green. Now we have one in the B-roll, we have one that is to our bedroom, and the link light is green, which means it's created a stable connection. So this was working, so sometime between last season and this season, it stopped working. Now, as you can see here, this is a waterproof enclosure. Again, just find one on Amazon or a local retailer. And then on here, we have these grommets. We have an HDMI grommet, waterproof grommet, so it creates a weather-tight seal between the two. And then we just have another weatherproof grommet, so I can send the Ethernet cable. And this is an IR cable, so I can send IR signals down to the basement in case I need to as well, which is what this little thing here is. So let's start some troubleshooting steps. I'm guessing it's going to be Ethernet related. So we're going to probably reduce some links in the chain to try and create better connections. So this goes into the wall up here. So this is ARC still, and then this goes down to the basement. What we're going to try and do is I'm going to start with the basement, because in the recent video we redid the Ethernet connections down there. So I'm going to guess maybe adding one too many cables is creating a link issue, and hopefully that's it. This is where the Ethernet cable and the HDMI cable and then the speakers all come down to here. So we have our Sonos amps here, this is the patio one here. So this is on and working. I can send audio up to the speakers fine, so I know this isn't the issue, so I can just play music on it, not a big deal. So down here we have our two HDMI baluns, and I was talking earlier about see how this is flashing a status light, and this is a green link symbol. This goes to our primary bedroom TV. And this one here is the patio TV, so it's trying to create connection, but there's no link light, which is bad. So what we need to do is work out why this is not creating a link light. So when we did our patching, this is the patio Ethernet cables, and the H here is the HDMI balun, which comes down to the transceiver down here. So I'm guessing either this patch panel or this cable or something between is causing the issue, because previously we used to just plug the cable from the back of this patch panel into the balun and it worked. So what we're going to do is we're going to unclip that cable and then plug it straight into the back of the balun. So one thing that occurred to me whilst I was doing this was checking that I unplugged the right cable. So I just came back out here to check the power went off when I unplugged that cable, just to make sure I got the right one. I'm going to undo my neat cabling, unfortunately. HDMI cable comes out the back of that. So fingers crossed. If you can see that, fingers crossed, you plug it in and it starts working, but if not, then we have a step two. Plug directly into the patch cable, into the cable that comes straight from outside, and now we have a green link light. Perfect, that's exactly what I want to see. But I'm out of interest going to try putting a coupler in here with that cable to see if that's the same issue. Part of my little experiment, I wanted to see where the fault lies. So what we did is I took that same cable, I took the same Ethernet cable, took it out of the back of the patch, front of the patch panel, and then I ran it from the back of the unit, this black cable, this black Ethernet cable, and then it's still looped into my rack, so I didn't want to unwire it. And then it comes out, and then into this coupler, into this, and we still have a green link signal. So that means my patch panel is unfortunately must create enough interference or a bad enough connection that it doesn't let the signal come through. Plot thickens a little bit. I actually just plugged everything back in, and I used a different port on my rack there. I went one over this time. And into the front here again, so it's one over, so we were in this one. So it makes me wonder if maybe this port is faulty. And the reason why it's mostly surprised is because our bedroom, this one on the end here is HDMI, this one, our bedroom here is the HDMI, and that does the same thing. We use a coupler, then we go down into the bottom there. Admittedly, this is a Cat6a cable, so this is shielded, so I would hope there's less interference. But yeah, this one works fine, which is why I was surprised that this one doesn't work. So it makes you wonder if this is a faulty coupler on the rack. So you see on the back of that now, we have our power, the status, and our link light, which is what we want. So let's turn on the TV and I'll show you what we get. Make sure you pair up your TV, and then make sure that even though the balance says it's making a link, we actually want to make sure everything works. Cool. And that, for anyone that's not aware, is the Sonos screensaver. So then now we can go in, and what you'll see on here, should detect it. So you see on the right here, you have your receiver, HDMI. So you have, by default, you have a TV speaker, and because this is an eARC, it's going to send the audio down to what's called a receiver, or in our case, this is a Sonos amp, which takes an ARC return signal. So we're going to pick that, bit of Crab Rave, which is a DRM-free music. So I don't know if it's coming over the speakers, but the audio is actually breaking up, which means the link actually still isn't that good. So that means there is still a poor connection somewhere. Plugged the cable directly into the back of the transceiver downstairs instead of going through the patch panel. It's a little less choppy, but not perfect. But what I noticed downstairs is that the link light's actually flashing, and also you notice here how it's getting this HDCP. It's trying to do something which I guess it doesn't quite support. So I think there's still a faulty cable somewhere, or potentially one of these units is faulty. All right, so we've done a couple more things. We changed out, this is an outdoor rated Unify Ubiquity cable. It's a little less choppy. We also took out this patch cable. The cable from the TV is going straight into the back of this Balun now. So at this point, I'm a little lost. As far as the cable tester is concerned, we have a perfect connection, all the cables, we got 1 to 8 on every single pin. So there's no connection issue. Change the cables, we actually use a different port and a different uplink cable that goes down to the basement. Doesn't help. New cable from HDMI. And on the basement side, we actually have a different transmitter that goes up to our primary bedroom. And I still have the same issue. It's still choppy audio. Video works fine. All right, one step closer. It looks like, so this is a different Balun, but I actually think this is from our bedroom, and they're both, so this is the workings. I know this system works, but it looks like it may be not related to that. I think it's these HDMI cables potentially, which is odd because they were working. The thing that made the most difference is I changed the HDMI cable into the Sonos downstairs, and now it's working. It's not perfect, it's still a little choppy, but like compared to what it was, is a big difference. So I'm going to try a completely different brand new HDMI cable and see if that makes a difference on both ends. Unfortunately, I have changed out every single component of this, different uplink cable, different patch cables, different couplers, different HDMI cables, and this was working last year. So I, sometime between now and then, redid the patching in my server in the mechanical room downstairs. I must have caused more signal issues. So what I'm gonna do actually, I mean, the good news is that looks like my HDMI Balun works fine, so that's good. The bad news is I'm gonna try a different brand or a higher quality one of these and then see if that fixes it. I'm just guessing there's just not enough signal integrity going back down to the basement. All right, it's been a couple of weeks since where we left up from, of trying to work out why this wasn't working. But what I've done is I have RMA'd the units. So thankfully, what's the company? AB Access, which you can get from Amazon. They, even though technically it was a little bit out of warranty, they sent me a new set of the same HDMI Baluns. I swapped them out straight away and it worked perfectly. So what I don't understand is I'm wondering if there must be an age component to them of where constantly being on and constantly being plugged in, the capacitors or something like that start to fade out after a year, which is a little worrying. But that said, my primary bedroom still works regardless of being plugged in constantly, almost for a year and a half at this point. So there must have been something odd going on where maybe this is a slightly longer cable run, or the router takes is a little more interference sensitive, where the brand new set works better. So unfortunately in the end, all my cabling was fine. We re-terminated cables, we re-terminated, we changed all the HDMI cables, we changed all the Ethernet cables, we choose different paths from here to the basement. And at the end of the day, it was, by the sounds of it, just these Baluns, the two older Baluns just weren't strong enough to send signal all the way back. But now it's working perfectly with these two brand new units. What I did notice is in the box here, this is a slightly different box to what I've sent. So I'm wondering if they've refreshed the electronics ever so slightly in this generation. The numbers are the same from what they sent me from my previous boxes, but the stuff inside of it is ever so slightly different. So maybe, and the stickers on this are ever so slightly different, so it makes me wonder if they have changed some of the electronics, which is maybe why maybe the signal's a bit stronger now. But anyway, thanks for joining me. Thanks for joining me on this journey, and I hope you can like and subscribe. See you next one.